welcome to today's episode of the Surrogate Buzz. Today is a fun topic. We're going to be talking about breast milk for GCs and intended parents. So if you are currently pregnant or looking into the process and breast milk is one of your topics, this is definitely something you should listen to. But before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment so that everybody can get the information that they need for this journey. So Trish, without further ado, welcome. So Trish is the co-founder of Leche, which is a breast milk alternative company, I guess you would say. I think this is super, super cool. I mean, I tell people about this all the time. But before I obviously get into your own introduction, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us how Leche became a thing?
Yeah. So, hi, I'm Trish Clifford. I'm the co-founder of Leche. This not only was a passion and a mission-driven business, but it came from our own experience. So my co-founder and I, we met at a book club, and we both had our babies around the same time, and we're going through just the entire infant feeding journey. So think waking up in the middle of the night, pumping, breastfeeding, and through that entire experience, we realized that this system of storing breast milk is still very antiquated. And with a little bit more of my background in food, nutrition, science, and manufacturing, I knew that we could take what we know as liquid gold and turn it into powder. And so as we were going through this entire process and looking at, breast milk as not only liquid gold, but something important that we were having excess amount of, how do we preserve it? And then how do we also share it? And this is kind of the second component of why we started this business too, was as prior to having our technology of turning liquid into powder, it was also overflowing in our freezers. And so we were reaching out to people in our community and saying, okay, we know we're not ready to put this down the drain. It's so important and a lot of babies need it. And also mothers, like, how do we share it? Mm-hmm. And so we were going on Facebook, we were going on Craigslist and all these different areas to say, hey, who needs breast milk?
Yeah.
And how do we share it? And people are coming to our house and, messaging, hey, I would love it. My baby's allergic to formula, or I don't make enough. And they're coming to our house and they're bringing these dry ice bags. And this was kind of a moment too where it clicked, where we need to make this system better as well. And we can have the own preservation. So how we kind of started the company was allowing moms who had excess breast milk to freeze dry their own breast milk. But then also, how do we fix this entire system of making sure that people who need access to breast milk have it in a safe and a convenient way? And the safety was a really, really important part.
Yeah, of course.
Because even through our experience having the moment where people are coming to our house and filling up, their ice coolers or bags with breast milk, we know we're safe.
Well,
right?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, you do, but what about everybody else that's selling it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the cool moment for this was I think the emotional connection that you look at when you see a mom and you both might not know each other, but you have this title mom and you're going through this infant feeding journey and you trust them in a way. And that's a beautiful thing. But with that said too, you might have the best intentions to be able to share. And there's certain components of this that, oh yeah, I'm healthy, but you might be taking a medication, or you might not know other components that the baby specifically that you are sharing that with this with might not be okay with. And so that was kind of this moment of, we could fix the system with the technology of actually turning it to powder. And then we can finally take this idea of sharing breast milk with your village, with your people, and make it convenient and safe. And so that was kind of the second revolution of our entire business, was using that technology and then allowing, people who need access to it, be able to do it, make it convenient and powder, but also really make it safe. And so that's kind of where we are today. We have the entire kind of circle connected where Leche turns breast milk into powder. You can get your own breast milk freeze-dried if you want to have your own personalized formula, but you also can purchase breast milk. And a key component to this is it's safe, it's triple checked, and we also compensate our donors. And this is a big thing that we'll, chat about with this entire journey of surrogacy, intended parents, and gestational carriers, because one of the mission forward things we believe in as well is, if you have gone through the idea of pumping breast milk, making this liquid gold, it's a lot of work. Not just time, energy. It's also it's time consuming, right? And it brings a lot of emotion to that entire from start to finish. So for us and going through it as moms and parents, we were just like, you should feel compensated and appreciated if that's what you want.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's really important to our business is we allow mothers to make that decision.
Yeah.
So if you are pumping liquid gold, you have excess, you want to give it to whomever, phenomenal. We have a whole pay it forward campaign. You can just give it out of the goodness of your heart. If you want to be compensated for cash, 100% support that. We also have a whole marketplace that allows you to exchange it for products, for services,
So cool.
for every other thing. So it's allowing this, again, giving more options to our donors who deserve it and also to the parents who need access to it.
Yeah. I think back on my own personal journey, with pumping and whatnot. And I think probably the biggest part is storage. And it's where am I storing all this milk? It's just kind of, just piles up and you want to make sure it's, stored properly and how long is it stored for and things like that. So being able to turn it into a powder that will obviously have a longer shelf life and you don't have to worry about having a huge extra freezer in your house. What if you, live in a condo or something, maybe you don't have access to that. So I think the whole concept around this is just like phenomenal. And it's like so cool that you came up with it. And it's crazy that it wasn't actually structured prior to, because I feel like this has just been something for, hundreds of years, right?
Yeah. Well, it's hard.
It is
and I'll
hard.
be like fully open about just the complexities of this business, from the logistics and you said storage and shipping overnight and testing. No wonder a lot of people have said, hey, I'm going to stay back from this because it's a lot. But this goes back to like just our passion and mission. We're like, okay, leave it to moms. We're going to figure out how to solve this.
Absolutely.
And it's going to take a lot of work, but we're going to do it because people deserve it,
And
right?
it would be worth it. Yeah. We've had situations in a match where IP was here for delivery, IP leaves, GC is still pumping, GC is shipping, and then something happens with overnight shipping and they lose, hundreds of ounces of milk. And as the pumper, you're like, oh my gosh, I think I want to cry. And as the intended parent who's waiting for this for their child and paying for these services, that is like devastating, So on all sides, it is very devastating. And I think for the surrogacy process for us specifically, I think this is really important because I think it gives intended parents more options for breast milk where before they may have not had that, where they're traveling, they're not here, the whole transportation, shipping thing just seems kind of really difficult, and they don't want to put their surrogate out to, get all of that packaged and there's a lot that goes into it. So I think this just gives them more options to have a healthy option for breast milk where you're not having to just straight go to formula if that's not something that you want to do.
Yeah, no, 100%. And one of the key components that we knew when we were designing the actual product was how do we make this flexible too? So the idea of it not being an all-in-one. So you kind of mentioned quickly about like storage and a lot of times you're storing breast milk in 4 to 5 ounce, 6 ounce bags. And once you either thaw that or heat it up, you have to consume it. Otherwise, it goes down the drain, right? And so it was like, okay, well, how do we truly make every ounce count and how do we give flexibility? So a lot of our parents who are a lot of combo feeders, they're looking at adding breast milk into whatever this journey might look like. So 2 ounce, our sachets are 2 ounce reconstitution. So you can essentially, for the early stages, make sure that you're doing the 1-2 ounces and you're not wasting excess breast milk. And then when they do graduate into having more ounces, you could do 2 ounces of leche and then maybe 2 ounces of formula or adding different. It gives you that flexibility so you're not stressing about so many other components because infant feeding journey is extremely exhausting mentally. And so just allowing a little bit more, say, hey, this is what is going to work best for us and our family. How do we add this in? And that was the whole purpose of how we kind of redesigned the product itself with the donor powder breast milk, was giving flexibility.
Yeah, because I feel like at some point, in a normal breastfeeding journey, you start to wean off, or maybe there's issues where maybe you're not producing. So then you're having to introduce formula, where in this case you could slowly introduce. So it's not such a you know, like shock to the baby where it's like, oh my gosh, now I'm getting formula and all these
Yeah.
different, issues, with obviously baby. But I think that that's really cool because then you could just like slowly transition if that's something that you have to do.
Right. Yeah.
So I would say a big thing that a lot of people may think of when they hear about this is one, is my breast milk or the surrogate's breast milk any different than if I were to get donated breast milk? Like, is there any difference in nutrients or nutritional value versus my own breast milk versus somebody else's?
Yeah. It's a great question. And there's two parts to it. So, yes, it is different. Every breast milk is different. And that's actually a really cool thing to see as we like take in a lot of donor milk and stuff as testing out nutritionals, composition, all these different things. It varies not only to each person, that single person throughout the day. It varies. And so it's a really cool thing. And I say that with excitement is everything is different. But in reality, when you look at the core components of what you're really trying to focus on with breast milk, it is all the same, or it's very, very close to the same. Now, if there's antibodies during certain sicknesses that do get passed on through a baby during certain times, but the core components and what we truly focus on with our product is microbiome health and brain development. And those are the HMOs. And we can kind of go into a lot of the fun science on here, but essentially these HMOs, human milk oligosaccharides, are the only found in breast milk. And they are specifically focused on microbiome health. And if you kind of think about the goal of the first 6 months, especially,
Yeah.
is to prepare the baby's gut for food, to be able to get it ready. And right, so those components are specifically important to gut development. And there's a lot of other, of course, good bacteria, you name it. But those ones are specifically involved with breast milk. And then the other component that's really interesting is if you think about humans as a species, right, mammalian species, our most precious asset to be able to build is our brain. And a lot of other things are get as big and fat as quick and possible, like, grow,
Yeah.
AKA a cow, because that's our best survival mechanism. Ours is our brain. So the fat cells in breast milk are specifically designed for brain development. And those, even through our safety process testing, fat cells are remained there. So we focus on really securing those HMOs and the fat cells, and then standardizing the product to ensure that you understand the caloric intake and all the other parts that are important. So yes, it's different. But still, that what you're getting is why this product does do a huge amount and has a huge amount of success, not just for whole full term babies, but also NICU babies.
Yeah.
Right. And
Which is really important.
really, really important. And actually, that was our standard coming through this entire process was we are going to implement the safety mechanisms and the processing techniques that have been valid and, I would say put your stamp on in the hospital space for the past 25, 30 years. Because it's shown so much success for our NICU babies.
Yeah.
We can implement that same processing technique into this as well. So that's kind of been our standard is how we do things, how we test, how we look at everything is based on essentially what's also okay for our NICU babies. And then they still get, all the benefits that we chat about. But there's also a beauty in this idea of multiple breast milks coming together.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there are things that one individual might lack. And you get to kind of make up with that in other ways, right? And we always kind of, when we're talking about this idea of sharing breast milk or bringing breast milk together and pooling it in different ways, it's kind of almost like this village approach, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about this in regards of, 100 years ago, if you birthed a child and for some reason there was a complication or you could not produce any breast milk, what did you do? You passed the baby
To someone else.
Somebody else, through a friend. And so this is, I think that, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about just the beauty of the surrogate and this idea of like breast milk sharing. This is what we had 100, 150 years ago. And we embraced it and it's part of who we are as a species. So we're just kind of bringing all that into a modern day world where we don't maybe live, next to our best friend, our sister, our cousins, where we're just passing, the
Or
babies
someone who's
around.
had a baby, like, hey, can you breastfeed my baby for me? Yeah.
And so how do we make this, feel accessible, cool, and almost bring back that moment of just oh yeah, we're bringing back a generational practice. And
Yeah.
it's just a little bit more modernized.
Well, and I think too, just as we've evolved, asking somebody for such a task to say, hey, I know you breastfeed your baby. Would you breastfeed my baby? It seems like, oh, I could never ask them that, or, or would they even want to do that? But I think, yeah, I think you're right. Like, this is something that has gone on for so many years. It's just as we've evolved, it's just been something that people kind of keep private, or they don't talk about the struggles and, what they're going through as just moms in general. I feel like we're so like, no, we got this. We could do this. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to talk about my struggles. And no, I can't, produce milk and whatnot. But
Yeah.
maybe that's your journey, is that's what you want. And that's what's best for your baby. So,
100%. We
yeah.
were never supposed to do this on our own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, and there's probably another conversation too about just mental health and what we put on mothers for, okay, be pregnant, birth the baby. Now you got to, feed every 2 hours. You got to, and it's like, oh God, I'm just trying to recover. And also there's a live human I have to take care of now. Like there's so much that we essentially used to kind of have as this village component. And I think this is part of like the bigger idea of, hey, from surrogacy to milk sharing. And I can just tell from my own experience, and we could talk to you about both personal, is people think it might be, oh yeah, I could never ask that. Nothing brings me more joy than like being able to either share my breast milk with people that are, in my village.
Yeah.
Or I had a moment, with my first, that my friend's baby was having jaundice and she couldn't get to the hospital quick enough. And, things can deteriorate pretty quickly. And I said, she goes, can you? And I said, of course. And I just start feeding the baby. And, a lot of times people go, oh, how nice of you. I'm like, the love I felt.
Right.
And the excitement and just the fulfillment I got from that is huge. And I'm sure this is that same idea where the surrogate journey, right? Of like people, look at it very logistically of, oh, this is, oh, how does this work? And then you also don't remember, like, there's also so much fulfillment you can get from that. Like to step
as
up
a surrogate.
for,
Like
100%.
everybody, it's like, I'm not a hero. I just am doing this because it also brings me joy. Like there's nothing that in my life that will ever, other than, obviously having my own children, but just being able to know that like I help that family. That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
But I think you touched on something important too, which is that as moms, and especially in a surrogacy world, where you do have that kind of detachment, or maybe it is very overwhelming. If you were able to have powder breast milk, not only will that give you as the mom a break, because now you're not having to feed every 2 hours and this and that, like your partner can also help. Okay, we have this other breast milk option. Okay, so maybe he gets every other feeding or she gets every other feeding. I mean, I think just coming together as a whole and as a couple, or whatever your journey looks like, I think is important, because it is very overwhelming. I always kind of say, like, everybody's so excited for you when you have your baby and you're having a baby and it's so joyous, and nobody really ever prepares you for just how hard it is. It's exciting, and it's exciting, and I can't wait to bring my child into this world, but it is also very overwhelming, and there's a lot of emotions that go into that. And then you add on feeding and just all of the complexities that it takes to be a parent, just in general. I think even just trying to minimize and make things more simple is huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
And then it's, we have a cool study going on up too about just like, you take a little bit of pressure and give the parents a little bit more options, you actually can achieve more of the goals that you set out to achieve, right? Whether that is exclusively breastfeeding or getting to a point where you're combo feeding, or you can extend that journey, whatever that might look like more options just make people feel a little less stressed.
Yeah.
And so whatever, journey you decide to have, you should be able to have options in that. And I think that we're finally getting into a time where we are able to bring back that village component and say, okay, I'm still recovering from birth. I can't, my nipples are bleeding. Like, can somebody please take this baby, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't have that, but I have a set of powder donor breast milk right there. And now I can sleep, and maybe I pump and then I make more milk. There's just so many other like ripple effects from
where it's not
things.
just this stressful, thing of feeding and I feel like as your kid gets older, feeding doesn't change, right? It's like, oh my god, my kid won't eat this or my kid won't eat that, and is it eating enough vegetables? I mean, I feel like that's probably one of the hardest things as a parent is the nutritional piece of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like at least if your journey starts out, a little less stressful than we've typically seen in the past. And I think that will help you mentally because the
Yeah.
mental piece is just huge.
Huge.
So let's kind of touch on this safety piece, which I know you kind of mentioned. So what goes into making sure that the breast milk is safe, tested, and like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So there's components of any breast milk we take in, whether it's a service order, somebody wanting their own breast milk, or a donor. There are safety components that we focus on the milk itself. And then on the donor side, there is a whole pre-application process, right? So I'll kind of go through that first. But essentially, if you do have an excess amount of breast milk and you want to donate and be compensated for that, the first thing you do is you do an application on our site. So it's a quick 5 easy question, and then we go through a more intensive medical review of just what your past medical history is. And then it goes through, you pass. The second step is a blood test. And the biggest component for this for us is we just want to ensure that there are no specific viral or bloodborne pathogens that can seep in to breast milk. So we have our donors go in and take a blood test. We get the results. Once they are cleared that none of these are present, right, that we then allow them to request a kit. And the kit now switches into individual breast milk testing. So they request a kit, pack up all their breast milk, we receive the breast milk, and now we do all individual kit. So every kit, even if it's multiple kits from a donor, gets tested. And that test includes protein analysis for milk to ensure it is indeed breast milk.
Probably important.
Yeah. And then there's bacterial testing. There's drugs, alcohol, medication, all these other things that, again, could seep in. And we want to ensure that prior to pooling any type of milk together, that those are all cleared. And so we do that. And then we do with the testing, we have the same type of testing on service, but we don't do the blood test since it is your own milk and you're getting it back.
Right.
Our biggest thing there is let's just make sure it's clean and great. And it's a really important step and something I want to kind of take a moment to tap into, because most of the time with all the hard work that you've done, whether you're a donor or a service person looking to freeze dry their breast milk, it takes a lot of work to make that milk. And there's a lot of other steps. You think about just like this idea of pumping and storing, but there's pump bottles. There's all these other moments of potential contamination. Breast milk itself is very antibacterial. Like it is liquid gold, right? But the moment bacteria gets in, it's like a feast,
Well,
right?
as soon as it touches your pump machine, like accessories and all of it.
It's the perfect food for bacteria. It has everything it needs, right? So I think that's where I always like to say, when we do sometimes get kits that come back, most of the time it's an unknown bacterial contamination, right?
Okay.
And so those are moments where it's like, oh, it's just heartbreaking because you're like, oh, this is liquid gold. But it's an important part that we really like to chat about, because there are all those steps. Breast milk is antibacterial, but sanitized pump are these things like a little bit, even introduction can unfortunately just grow, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to do that in order to ensure prior to processing for safety that is clean. And then once we confirm everything is good, we go through the processing of actually turning it into a powder. So we have separate processes for our donor product that gets sold as well as our service product. But essentially it's making sure it's clean, tested, run it through, and then turn it into that powder, do another test at the end to ensure that everything is good, and then your product's ready to go. So that's kind of where the triple testing component comes in, is we test our donors, blood test, we test individual milk kits, we test it pooled, pre-processing, we test it post-processing, and then at the final stage. So it's a lot. That's what I
it's
say.
a lot of checking. Yeah.
Yes, but it's extremely important.
It's important. Well, yeah.
And then we also, so we have all of our internal lab at our facility. So we kind of, have that, but then we also send it out to a third party for all those testing as well. So it's a triple tested, very verified, safety component. But there are some times where we have to, send some bad calls and emails and so forth, because it's contaminated in some way.
Yeah.
But the good news is those, most of the time, whether it's a service customer or a donor, they understand, and we just kind of guide them through, hey, this is what we see, in order to make it easier, quicker for you to just, try again. And we always give our donors and customers a moment to reset. So a lot of times it's like, just throw your pump parts away, get new ones, or fully sanitize them, because that's usually the 100% the issue. We also have noticed so high lipase is another thing that's really kind of had a lot of talks, because for the first time since we've been able to pump, usually it's just directly from the breast.
Yeah.
High lipase is a lot more common, because lipase itself is actually really important for breast milk.
Yeah.
You need lipase in breast milk, but it breaks down the fats. It helps break them down. But when it's high, it's overactive, and it just kind of like works almost like a robot, right? And a lot of times when it's super overactive like that, it essentially releases some, the best way, just like toxic smells and taste.
Okay.
And so a lot of people, I'm sure, are like, yes, I knew my baby refused my breast milk. And it's not bad breast milk. It's actually fine. It's just the smells and the taste that can come from high lipase make babies refuse it. And so in regards to storage, we really try and tell people, hey, if you're not planning on using that breast milk within 24 hours, whether you're pumping to send to us or do this, like, throw it in a freezer bag, because the longer high lipase is sitting there to just work, the more those
until it's frozen.
Once it's frozen, it's inactive. And this is a key thing for freeze drying. And we tell people, especially if they have lipase, like, don't even put it in the fridge at all. Literally freeze it in 2-ounce reconstitution, like bags, instead of filling up the bags.
Yeah.
Immediately freeze it, because then it's inactive. When we freeze dry it, it's inactive.
Got it.
It doesn't start picking up again until it's reconstituted. So a lot of times too, we see people who, whether they're donors or customers, send us their breast milk and we freeze dry it. Those effects are gone, which is super cool, because it allows them to essentially look at like all of their. So whether you're a donor or service customer, you suspect you might have high lipase, like 100% send us the product. We can't guarantee it will ever completely fix it, but a lot of times we see a lot of incredible results.
And how would you know that once you get it and test it?
Usually the first sign that people see is their baby's refusing their either thawed or fresh breast milk.
Okay.
And if you just kind of open it, you'll smell. If you don't smell, taste it. Sometimes there's like a metallic taste or taste kind of just really bad.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just these effects from high lipase.
Yeah. Interesting. So on the GC side, hopefully they're just pumping and freezing. So the high issue wouldn't even come into play.
It's really just exactly that. Like, if you plan on doing this, you're pumping to freeze and then send to us. Don't even store it in the fridge.
Just straight to the freezer.
Yes, because a lot of people are doing this thing, which is really cool. It's called the pitcher method, especially if you're especially if you're just like an exclusive pumper, which is great because it makes like this idea of storing breast milk. Because again, it's like this milk management where you pump. Okay, now I have to take a bag. I write on it. I pour it. I freeze. There's so much extra work in just that. So a lot of people are moving to a pitcher because then you could
like a big mason jar and they just refill.
Yes, yeah. And it's so much more convenient. Again, everyone's trying to solve for flexibility, convenience. But if you are having it sit there for a long time, for days at a time, number one, it could, if you do have high lipase or a more overactive lipase enzyme, it could start essentially making all that milk bad. And so it's just ideally, I tell people like freeze it as quick as you can.
Yeah.
Plus too, a lot of times in the fridge specifically is, even though you might have sealed, like there's stuff in your air, open food containers, again, once bacteria enters in, it loves breast milk. It loves it. It loves it. Loves it. So it can just start to grow. So we try to tell people to quickly store. If you're doing pitcher and you're seeing that like bacterial contamination, stop. Just go straight to freezing.
Straight to freezing.
Yeah, all those things.
So in years past, the only way to really donate if you weren't giving it to somebody was like donor breast, or was like the milk bank, right? Or the preemie banks and things like that. And the testing, I'm guessing, is very similar.
Very similar. Yeah.
So a question that we get on the surrogate side when donating breast milk is placenta encapsulation. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but a lot of times if you do placenta encapsulation, you cannot donate breast milk. Is that accurate?
For certain milk banks, they say
Uh-huh.
that. Yes, I think it's more of a precautionary, and I might so it's very interesting because you have Habana, which is a very a national organization that overlooks a lot of milk banks, but every milk bank is run independently.
Okay.
That is currently looking at donation and then taking that milk to NICUs and hospitals around. So every milk bank has a set of standards and guidelines that are set by Habana, but still how they implement certain components are different.
Okay.
Right? And so a lot of you'll see that kind of shift in different ways. I think for the placental encapsulation, there's a lot of banks that will just have a certain timeline, essentially, that once you've, let's say, encapsulated it and then taken it, that they want it to kind of be out of your system.
Okay.
And I can kind of, again, this is full transparency, my own understanding from this. I haven't actually gone through the milk banks and chatted, but one of the, I think, reasons for that, if you are to ask me, is because the placenta is a phenomenal organ.
Yeah.
It is so cool, but it's a filtration system too. And the whole purpose of that is to essentially any type of toxin that gets introduced during pregnancy, you might not know, the placenta is supposed to clear that so it never enters a baby, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you look at that too, that could be something where certain viral components can enter placentas, certain bacterial, all these things in there, again, protecting the baby.
Yeah.
But if then you go through and have that after, it could lead to a potential, and this is where we, ask more for that blood test component, is because we just want to ensure, hey, did any type of bloodborne pathogen get in prior?
Right.
So there are some milk banks who don't do blood tests specifically, like in this way. So they might say, hey, it's easier for us to just say no, because in case there was something that came through and it entered, now we could risk the milk. But we do have a blood test. So
if they did placenta encapsulation, they could still potentially go through with you as long as the blood test came back and it was clear.
Exactly. So it's one of those where if we don't have it as like an X, but we do require the blood test. If something came back, then we can't allow you to be in the donor component if there was a test for some type of positive.
Until maybe you were done taking it or whatever.
Filtered out through the system.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. I had a surrogate ask, well, if I do placenta encapsulation, does that mean I can't do it? And I was like, that's a great question. I'm going to ask her that.
Yeah.
But I know in years past before, you guys had this product, if you did placenta encapsulation, it was kind of like a no-go to, moving forward.
And I think it's just back to my theory of why is it's a safety mechanism because of that bloodborne pathogen component. But a lot of milk banks don't have the ability to have the full test that we have, right? So because we pay for that, so that's why it's more of a safety mechanism.
Yeah, and it's important, I think, because I think you're just going one step further and saying, okay, is it clear, right? Like we're stopping at this blood test and then kind of like, moving forward. So
yeah.
So do you think that that's what kind of separates you from essentially your milk product versus like actually donating to like just a normal milk bank?
Yeah. We'll break that down a little bit. For there's a couple components. Yes, we make it very easy. Mm-hmm. So, we obviously have the transparency of the tests and the components that we have in place in order to ensure that the final product is safe. But it's also, there's only a certain amount of milk banks in the U.S.
Yeah.
And most of the time, they're not conveniently located to a lot of people. So, sitting and, again, packing up your frozen breast milk and then driving 2 hours to a milk bank and doing it, it's not. Ask a new mom with a baby to do that. Like, no, it's not going to happen, mm-hmm. right? So our whole goal outside of the safety components that we put in was, let's make this easy for our donors. So when you sign up and you do have to like go through that, once you get that blood test completed, everything is sent to your house. So you get a cooler, you get extra milk bags, you get everything you need to say, hey, boom, and then it's shipped to us. So we accept nationwide, right? As long as you are able to kind of drop it off at FedEx, you can ship your milk to us. Most milk banks don't have those options set up as easily as we. So they make a lot more, oh yeah, we'll accept your milk, but you have to go.
You have to do all the work.
Exactly. You have to figure out all those logistics. And again, it's a lot of logistics. So let's make that easy for mom, or for our incredible donors that are supplying our product.
Yeah.
And then the second really important thing is our milk banks still are just frozen bottles. There is no powder. Right?
Okay,
so
right.
the innovation component is really critical, because when we do accept that milk, now we turn it into powder. So it can be transported anywhere.
Anywhere. Yeah.
Exactly. Where if you are going to buy milk bank or donor milk from a milk bank, you have to drive there. They won't ship, again, frozen milk, or most of them, but they won't ship that. And then second too is a lot of times there's a minimum that they require, right?
So you can't just go and get 50,
25 ounces. Yeah. Hey, my baby, or I'm going to leave for the weekend. Let's say you're an exclusively breastfed or a mom exclusively breastfeeding, and you are leaving for a weekend trip that you've been looking forward to, and your baby can't take formula. You're just like, what am I going to do?
Right.
And a lot of times milk banks, even if they are somewhat close, will require a certain amount of ounces that you have to purchase, and then it's frozen. So you're driving out there. All these logistics. Ours were like, hey, here's your product. You can have 12 sachets, and it could push you through, or you can just have it for a short term, or you can have it for a long term. Again, flexibility.
Yeah.
Like, let's make it easy.
Yeah. And I love on social media when women will tag you and like, here I am with my little, my little packet, just put it in there. Like, it's just like no brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just so easy. Cause, having been a mom who traveled with breast milk and, a breast pump and like all these different things, I mean, it gets a little, it's a lot, know? So I feel like if you were just able to just take your little packet of powder and just throw it in a bottle, it's like, duh.
Yeah. Our only requirement is like purified or distilled water. Just don't be, throwing a tap in there. But most of the time babies will take it even like cold. It doesn't have to be warmed.
Yeah.
But another really important thing, and I think this is even more critical in today's world as we are thinking about these dynamic infant feeding systems, is transparency on what you are getting. So a lot of times you go to these milk banks, and even though we know that the breast milk has been, checked and pasteurized to make sure it's clean, you don't have a nutritional panel. It's just there, right? So again, for us, transparency on what that looks like. What are the calories? What are the fats? What am I looking for? Am I missing anything that I have to supplement with, either with, vitamin D drops, for example, or do I need that? So having that too is a really important thing. So that is another thing that's very different. Even if you had the local milk bank, they can't guarantee that they have that nutritional test. So we have our own internal lab that does all that. And then we also send it out for third party. So you're getting that too.
Because you don't know where the donors are coming from or what nutritional value they had in their own life to.
Yeah. Like we did an experiment with my own breast milk, and every 2 hours, the calories and fat changed. Every 2 hours of pumping.
Well, yeah, you're eating different things throughout the day, right? And then.
Yeah. And so we'll get, certain caloric breast milk that's, let's say, 17, some that's 33. That is a wide range, right? That's not just like 2 or 3. So you want to be able to help standardize that. And so we've standardized it not only on the breast milk kind of scale, but also on the formula scale. So you will look at what our product breast milk is, and you'll be able to compare it to formula and be able to understand, okay, if my baby needs this amount of calorie, or if you're fortifying your milk or doing this, now you have transparency in what that looks like. So we believe that was a huge component too, in order to make this, modernized feeding journey.
Yeah. So shelf life, what are we looking at? And if you're shipping, let's just say the powder, I'm guessing it doesn't have to be refrigerated or just kind of at room temperature?
Yeah. We just say cool, dry place.
Okay.
So you don't want to leave it, even if it's like sitting in your car, if it gets like 100.
Yeah,
just in general, it's not.
It's still a milk product.
It's still that. So we say just cool, dry place. But, we certify 12 months, which is kind of that global certification on this freeze-dried breast milk side. But we have, with that said, done a lot of cool tests internally with our own breast milk and so forth. And it's looking like it's going to be closer to the freeze-dried product scale, which a lot of freeze-dried products that in space, right? That's what they eat, are 30 plus years. So we haven't had the ability to show that yet. But through our own internal testing and some other things that have happened globally with other different scientific researches, it's definitely past that 12 months. But we know for sure 12 months, this is what Australia, UK, US, all these different components of tests. So we're
Yeah.
just like, okay, we'll stay there. But we're pretty sure it's going to be more than that in the next 2 or 3 years. Which will be
So cool. I would say even 12 months is huge.
Huge.
Because, let's just say in an average normal feeding, let's just say someone was like, hey, I want to get to a year. Well, that the product you're purchasing is good for that entire year
Yes.
of, and then maybe you just supplement throughout, starting your baby on cow's milk or whatever kind of milk you go to, right? But I would say that's huge because a typical, quote me if I'm wrong, breast milk in a freezer is about 6 to 9 months, correct?
Yes. Usually we say if it's just in a regular freezer, like at your house, combination refrigerator freezer, it's usually around 3 to 6 months.
Oh, okay.
If you have a deep freezer, it definitely can get closer to 12 if you're only, opening it up then. But 6 months is that time we usually say, hey, either ship it to us and let us freeze dry it. And then extend that shelf life. Or if you're, donating, we really love to see kind of within that 12-month period. So most of the time it's stored in a deep freezer. So, but up to 12 months, you're pretty good. But we do start to see nutritional declines lightly after the
Okay.
12. But with that said, because we have our whole lab, we will even accept breast milk that is later. We just have to do a more intensive testing on the nutritionals to ensure that it's okay.
Yeah.
But we have the ability to do that because we have everything in house,
Yeah.
which is really cool. So truly, no ounce gets wasted. That's
Yeah.
the goal. And yeah, we get that.
I love that. Well, hopefully it goes more to the 30 years and then it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, you could just have it forever, right?
Well, and we tell people too, even if you buy it, right, and you're kind of in like, what if I don't use this because it's not cheap, it's an expensive product.
Yeah.
And we kind of have gone through why. Well, we compensate our moms, and we go through a lot of testing and a lot of individual components. So those are two reasons why it's a lot more of an expensive product, because you're getting the safety component and then you're getting into the compensation for moms, which is so important to us. It's a mission forward statement. Like, you should feel compensated. So, but on top of that, if you don't, let's say your baby just refuses bottles starting at 12 months, you could take that breast milk and put it on their first foods or purees, or you could put it in a smoothie and they don't even know. So it's like, it really will never go wasted.
Yeah.
And you can just keep it till they're 2, or maybe if they're sick and you're like, let's give them a little boost.
Yeah. I would push back the fact that it's expensive because I think formula is also expensive depending on which route, you go with formula. So I think either way, it's just depending on what your journey is as a parent and like what you feel is best for your child, which is uniquely individual to everybody that's out there, right? I think this product is really important as well because we have intended parents that are coming from all over the world. And a lot of times they will say, okay, well, I want to bring the formula from my country, let's just say from Germany, because it's obviously different from the US. But then they get here, they can't give it to the baby in the hospital because the US hospitals won't allow them because they don't know what it is. So in regards to the feeding possibilities, even just worldwide, they could have breast milk in a powder, which is essentially formula. It doesn't matter if you're coming from Germany or if you're coming from the US, like it's going to be able to be used. And you won't have to worry about the transfer of like, oh, I'm bringing this formula or that formula, or, that's like what really sticks out in my mind. Cause I know those conversations are had pretty frequently here, where it's like, hey, I'm going to try to, give my baby the formula it's going to have when we go back to our country, but yet I can't use it here.
Right. And I'm sure you get that too with this journey of, you have your surrogate, and a lot of times that surrogate can provide breast milk to that family. But if they are international, they have to stay here for a long time. And they might be coming home. So it's, we have the option now where the donor or, surrogates can still be compensated the way they hope for by, sending in their breast milk. But then intended parents have an ability to say, hey, well, I'm going to purchase this and I have that here. And then I can, like you said, take it back to wherever I need to go. And there's not that pressure on either side. Hey, I need you to pump really fast. And then, we see this sometimes with intended parents, then that surrogate will send it for our service so we can freeze dry their own breast milk. And then we can send that out to, let's say a different state, right? If their surrogate's here in California and then they live in New York, we can just she sends us her breast milk. specifically, we freeze dry it and send that one directly to the intended parents. Or again, we can have them both go, they can buy the donor product, and then the surrogate can take their time to, be compensated if they want to continue that pumping journey. So it just allows like everybody to kind of have options. That's the goal.
What is the time frame from the time that, let's just say in a surrogate journey, surrogate pumps sent to you? What is the time frame to getting back that product in your home?
So if you are, let's say you're surrogate, you want their breast milk specifically.
Correct.
So you just want theirs. By the time they make the purchase order, it's about a 3-week timeline.
Okay.
From the time it could get back to their door.
Okay. So surrogate preps it, ships it to you. You do all the testing, put it in a powder, back at their house within 3 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. That's usually, as long as we can ensure that by the time the product or the shipping kit is here, it's packed over to us. A lot of times based on different things, we can rush that. But ideally, our biggest thing is there's a certain timing of testing that has to happen in between before we can even start the processing.
Maybe not something you want to rush.
We don't want to rush, But even with that, we give ourselves some time to say, hey, but if you have, some type of situation, there's a lot of times we can either rush that shipping once we've gone through all the processing things that we don't rush, but we can rush the end of like the shipping to you or getting it somewhere else.
Yeah. So let's talk about the options that, let's just say, intended parent per se, and leave the GC out. So what options do they have? They're about to have a baby, and they're like, hey, listen, we really think breast milk is the best. We're only going to be in town, a few weeks. I would say typical time frame, even for some US IPs, obviously they can get home quicker if they're driving. But, I would say anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, even, for international, sometimes 4 weeks. What does that look like for them? They want to get set up and you're like, okay, here's the options we have for you.
Yeah, great question. I think the answer is we have both. And I think that if you are in a really good position, having both is the best. Yeah. So intended parents, let's say your surrogate is saying, yes, I would love to pump for you and do that. There's a time period where you want her to bulk up some of that, right, breast milk. And so our service kits are designed for 75 ounce reconstitution. So we would get a kit to her. She'd fill up about 75 ounces or more and then ship it to us so we can start that process. Okay. But then in between there, if that's, the option that you want to kind of combo that, then in between you say, hey, prior to even delivery, I'll buy a 12-pack of Leche donor breast milk. That is to your door within 2-3 weeks. Okay. I'm sorry, 2 to 3 days, right?
Oh, okay, so quick.
It's quick.
Okay.
It's in stock. It's ready to go. But so that you can have where you could say, okay, I want a certain amount of breast milk kind of sitting here. So I give my surrogate some time to pump and build it, and we're not rushing through.
And maybe we're using
shipping.
both. Yeah,
we're using both. I think ideally, if you have the ability to do that, that's a great option for you because it takes pressure off of you worrying so much about when is the milk coming in, what does the production look like, all these things that you kind of don't know for the first, let's say, week or two, right? And so you can have Leche there where you're focused on breast milk, and then you can continue to kind of, let's say, freeze dry or use fresh, whatever you want. But I think that is a phenomenal option. If that's not an option for you, let's say the journey is, hey, we just want to move forward with our next stage. Leche is there for subscription. You can literally buy as much as you would like to be able to combo feed in any way you want. We do have some customers who essentially Leche is their only source. Yeah. And they just get that powder all the time. And it's in reconstitution, 2 ounces. That's sometimes a lot of people are like, hey, I want to buy bulk. Can I just get like a formula?
A big container?
Yeah. We're like, we would love to do that, but it kind of goes back to safety. And this is another reason why we designed it in the 2 ounce reconstitution. We were saying you have that 12-month timeline. Mm-hmm. That's as long as it's sealed and in a cool and dry place. The moment you expose any type of powder to the outside world, whether you're grabbing it, even with your hands, there's bacteria. So there's, light and all these components, air that can essentially put other components into what we knew was fresh. So we say, it's in these reconstitution, then you can add it however you like. But ideally, you now have both options. You can kind of say, hey, based on, this timeline, there's no pressure for you. We're not worried about shipments going back and forth. We have, powdered breast milk here. We can get through this. And then if there's the fresh component, you kind of mix, and then you design however you want. Yeah. And we kind of fit into allowing you to design your own.
Well, and I think too, if you know, obviously your surrogate's going to be delivering, you're deciding what you feel is best for your baby, regardless whether, surrogate is going to be pumping colostrum, all those things, like knowing that, but also just having a plan, right? So it's like, hey, my surrogate's going to be delivering in the next couple weeks. I really like to go the breast milk route, just knowing that in 3 days they can have it, right? Or maybe they're traveling to this area. Hey, surrogate, can we have, some breast milk, sent to you,
Yeah.
so that it's ready and we can, have it readily available for the hospital and whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
I think just like obviously having a plan that obviously comes, with talks from the agency and things like that, or, just the combination of the whole group kind of talking about that, I think is important. I mean, 3 days is nothing.
No, no. And again, it's like most of the time we tell people, hey, we have a first week of life kit that says like, here you go. Here's your 12, sachets. Again, even if everything goes perfectly as you plan,
Mm-hmm.
which we all know that is not the case.
Doesn't always happen.
Whether
Yes.
it's birth, whether it's infant feeding, it never truly goes exactly how you'd hoped and planned. So let's get you in a position where you have a backup option
Mm-hmm.
and then you're not worrying or scared. And a lot of times too, you just don't know how the baby, I always say, is like, you might have your birth plan, but the baby has their own plan.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
don't really know what that looks like. So there might be components too where you are leaving they won't let you leave the hospital until you start to show certain weight gains.
Mm-hmm.
But the milk hasn't come in. All these different factors that you're just like, then you're stressed, then you're worried. Then you have this external pressure of, oh no, whether it's on you and the surrogate, everybody's feeling it, right? The
Yeah.
tension. So it's like, let's ease that off. Let's get you essentially, like I tell people, buy a 12 or 2 ready to go with you to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
That way you don't have the stress. You know that you can supplement. You're there. You're not worried about introducing formula so early if you don't want to. You just have options. And so our first week of life kit really focuses on ensuring that you feel like when you walk in that hospital, whether you're an intended parent or a parent, you feel like you've got a backup option.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to stress about when your milk's coming in or every 2 hours or if your baby's gaining weight or if they have a low blood sugar. It's just, here you go.
Yeah. And then if the surrogate does want to pump, then that gives you time for her to, get the milk produced and
Yeah.
be able to ship it to you. So so that in 3 weeks, that is also coming, and then
Exactly.
you have kind of a backup
Yeah,
from there.
it's the options. And that's I think our goal with like everything about this company is just giving people options.
Yeah.
So they don't have to like worry so much about the perfect plan that might not go as planned.
Yeah, right. And so let's transfer to GC now. So GC is having a baby. So there's two options. One, she's either going to be pumping for her intended parents for what time frame, we don't know, right? Or maybe her intended parents just don't have any regard in wanting breast milk, but she feels the need to pump. Maybe she's a big producer. How can I help? Like, this is going to help me get back into shape, like all of the things, right? So what is the process for the GC if she's wanting to work with Leche and be able to use those services?
Yeah. First off, this is something we get so excited about because this is one of those moments where if you have had a previous, breastfeeding journey, you kind of know what that is going to look like.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be exactly the same, but you do have a little bit like, oh, this worked really well for me. I was an overproducer. It's probably going to happen again. We tell our, those parents and gestational carriers, like, sign up early, do the application, get ready to get your blood test. We just require a 6 month or at the beginning when you onboard that you have your blood test within a certain days, let's say 30 days prior to actually sending us milk.
Okay.
And then we just have the repeat one within a 6 month period.
Oh, gotcha.
Unless
Okay.
something changes on your own medical history, that's so we tell, gestational care, hey, if you can you're doing a lot of blood tests right now
Yeah.
anyway, so like add one in for us and then that way you're kind of in the system. So you're ready to go. And whether, it works out as you'd hoped, like the moment you deliver what that looks like and you have all this milk, you don't have to go through kind of that initial onboarding that might take a little bit more time.
Yeah.
Do it prior and get in the system. And then because you're in that certain time frame, you can request a kit. You tell us exactly how many ounces, boom, it gets sent to you, shipped over to us as quick as possible. We compensate moms and there's a whole point system that is with this marketplace now. So you can exchange it for like products, services, et cetera, or cash, as long as once it passes its bacterial testing or any other type of testing prior, that we do, that intense, once we get that individual kit, those points go into your system and you can cash out, right?
Okay.
It's on a 2 to 4 week system, just like you would be with, your employer,
Well,
right?
yeah,
So you can
right.
cash out April 9th. It comes in your account by like that 15th. So we tell people, get your account set up, get the application done. If you can, get your blood work in. And then that, you're in that journey, you can request a kit. Essentially it can arrive the moment you get back from the hospital.
Yeah.
Because we do allow people, or our donors, at least a month to fill up. So if they request a kit, they have up until that month to kind of send it back to us. We ask them not to, get a kit like 3 to 6 months, because then it just sits there.
Well, yeah.
But within a month period. So if you're ready to go and you want that there, like, just sign up early.
And on their account, do they see any sort of progress in regards to like
Yes.
how that's going?
Yeah. So they get that when it's been shipped, their kit, a status notification. We just did a huge technology push. So we've built out this entire thing to not only bring that transparency, but allow a lot of those things to push in for all of our customers and donors. So if you go in and you do the application, you get signed in, you'll be able to already see what your donor portal will look like.
Cool.
And it'll tell you statuses, what your next step is, what your points value is, what you want to exchange it for. You get to see the reward shop. So it's really, really cool. We tell anybody, like, even if you just have an intention, just go in, sign up.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of see what that process looks like. But they will see. So if we ship that kit out, they'll see it when it's been shipped, when it's been received at their house, when it's been received back with us. And then if it's in back, like any type of, individual kit testing, if
Okay.
it passed, once it's passed, then they kind of see that the points, like, come into their system. And then they can, like I said, exchange for products, services, rewards, all these different things.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that was like a huge task for the technology piece. So,
Yes, it was.
But
I laugh, and I could totally talk about this now, but you're focusing on two different things. Is you have your whole back end manufacturing
Yeah.
side, and like your operations and testing, and how you are looking at your team doing that. And then, you chat with a lot of like tech components and people. They're like, okay, we can make this, but then connecting that to the consumer facing side is a completely different
yeah.
side. So this was the moment where, like, that's it. We're building this. We're doing it right. And we're super excited, because it's like now these two things chat in a way that gets people excited and gives essentially our donors and customers like feeling appreciated for what they're doing, which is the most important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So each time that they have milk that's ready for on the donor side, will a new kit get sent out to them?
Yes. So a great question. We do require 300 ounces per kit to be sent.
Okay.
So when you are looking at taking a kit, requesting it and bringing it sent, you want to make sure you kind of get to that 300. If you have a lot more, we also have a level up kit for that too. But ideally, the more, not only for you for points and so forth, but for us for shipping and making sure it's cool, all of the logistics we have, we require a minimum of 300 ounces per kit. Once that kit has been tested, you can request another one. And you can then request a 500 or bigger ounce volume. But a lot of our donors they request it almost every 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Because they know that they're producing so much per day, so they know they're going to hit that
100%.
point. Okay, so you could pre-request.
Yes.
Got
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we ask you prior, is like, how many ounces do you plan on donating?
Mm-hmm.
Or let's say you have a stash, or you're going to be continuing to go because you know what that volume is. Then it allows us to understand how your kit request on the back end is like. You can, once you've gone through one testing kit being tested and passed, then you can request 2 or 3, or based on your volume. And we
Gotcha.
know, because you've kind of given us what that volume estimate looks like.
Yeah. And is there any time frame where, let's just say, is it only for a year or only for this? Like, so it could just be continuous. There's no time frame that's set up in regards to accepting.
No,
Okay.
the only requirement we have is just that kit is 300 ounces.
Okay.
Because it's hard if it was like, oh, I'm just sending 25. The whole logistics of how we test and everything, and that's the only requirement. You could do 1 kit, you could do 10 kits. We have, again, whatever you want. It's kind of options on your end.
Super cool. Because we do have surrogates who just love to pump. Like that's
100%.
they love it,
Yeah.
And so I feel like sometimes that also extends your journey, because that is, once the journey ends, there is a very like final piece to that where it's like mentally like, oh my gosh, am I done? But I feel like if you're pumping, it kind of extends that, where I'm still helping and I still have this these, feelings that like I'm still doing something, even though my surrogate baby was born, but I'm still moving forward with like actually helping someone
Yeah.
and feeling still connected to that journey. So sometimes they'll want to
Oh,
pump
we've had
and
for 2-3 years.
wow.
Yeah. That are just, this is my passion. I'm so
Yeah.
excited about it. And this is why the compensation component is so important to us, because we just want parents and our amazing donors to feel appreciated for that, but in a way that makes them feel good. So again, we have a whole you'll see on the portal, Pay It Forward campaign, where you can send gift cards out with your breast milk, that you've donated to, let's say, a baby shower that you have, or so you can
love
do
that.
whatever you want. You can cash out, you can exchange. You'll see the value for a lot of these things are higher. So we've met a lot of amazing women who have had an excess amount, but they are unable to get that cash compensation for whatever reason. And they can exchange it now for products and services. So it's almost like looking your breast milk like a currency, right?
Yeah.
And you can decide to give that, or you can be compensated. But a lot of donors now are able to have said, hey, I can't take that, check in the mail, or I can't claim this for any reason, but I can get that stroller, or I can get a gift card to spa. You have a whole dynamic marketplace now where
Yeah.
essentially if you can use that.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I mean, obviously the compensation is nice. I'm not saying that some people won't do it for compensation, but I mean, there has to be another driving force, right? It's kind of the similar to surrogacy. Like there has to be other reasons why you want to do this versus
Yes.
just getting the compensation. But I feel like at least offering that and giving them that ability definitely like makes them feel valued, right?
100%.
Because it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And we believe that our whole purpose is you deserve options, and you should be able to decide whatever that might be for you.
Yeah.
And we just support that in any way possible. So for intended parent, they only want breast milk that's from their, just GC. Great. Like we will freeze dry it for you, make it like everything's there. Options.
Yeah.
So.
I love it. So if somebody wanted to get signed up, whether it's intended parent or GC, how did they get started?
So this is a cool thing about the technology that we just built too. So we realized that, we have the whole donor application and the marketplace there, but a lot of these donors are also customers in so many ways. And so the thing that we tell people is like, hey, now head on our site. You can essentially sign up, even if you're just a customer, so an intended parent, as an insider. And the insider not only allows you to look at the dynamic of like what you are possibly purchasing or signing up for, but you get rewarded for a lot of that too.
Okay.
So there's a whole kind of an insider program where it says, hey, I want to be a part of Leche for whatever my journey might look like. And you get to kind of have rewards and information and everything with that. So it's like a whole customer component to that. And then on the side is the donor, which is, again, the compensation, the marketplace, how your kits are. So you can exchange to, let's say you are producing a ton of milk and you want some of that breast milk. You can donate, 500 and then get a freeze drying service kit. So you get your own breast milk back as well.
Cool.
So you can kind of see what that dynamic, and then you become an insider too, because you can become a customer in many ways. So
yeah.
Go on, you can essentially sign up it'll tell you a whole application process of like, why are you here? What's your goal? How does that look like? And then we can essentially allow you to look at what the services, products, and things are for you. So it's all, go to the site, go to insider, become a donor. You could be both, and start to kind of explore how you get to be a part of this and create kind of your own journey.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And it's my
the website is itsmyleche.com. So we definitely go by Leche, and Becky and I were talking about this, but the It's My Leche, when it comes to social channels, at It's My Leche, and then our website is itsmyleche.com. And then you'll see components of how you get there. And yeah, explore, have fun, and please send feedback too, because this is one of the things that we have learned very quickly in this industry is it needs a lot of dynamic components to it, and we're ready to take that leap and test it out. But it's still, we're trying out all these things and adding these things. So we have the ability now to say, okay, what do you want? Oh, you want this? Okay, we can add this. Or how do you need this? So from donors and customers, come in. Feedback is always welcome. We're always innovating and seeing how we can make this better for you, and then get you the product and service that you want.
Love it. I've been on the website and I obviously follow social media. So definitely check it out. It's super cool. If somebody literally watches nothing else but the ending of this, what is the most important component you think they need to know about donor breast milk or breast milk options?
I think that it's an option.
Yeah.
I think that we have gotten to a point where this idea of, sharing breast milk is just not talked about enough anymore. And back to that point of, this is a generational practice that we have been doing for thousands of years. Let's bring it back. And also let's make it exciting and acceptable. And I'm sure you feel the same with surrogacy. It's like, it might not be the path or whatever that you had planned, whether it's infant feeding or this, but like, it's a beautiful path and there are options now. And let's just embrace it and be excited and look at these options and not feel like a failure in any way. I think no matter what, every single person who jumps into parenthood, however they got there, is a superhero. And just like, let's have options. Let's make this exciting and fun and take the pressure off a little bit. I think that's the best thing.
Totally. Yeah. Well, we appreciate you being here today, Trish. Thank you for all this wonderful info. I know I'm like a huge lover of this Leche product. I think it's super cool. And I think just for, obviously all parents, but surrogacy in general is just like such a good option that has never been there before, because it's either your surrogate pumps or you use formula, and there's been no other option.
There's nothing in between.
Yeah. So if you're watching, definitely check out the website. But thank you so much for joining the Surrogate Buzz today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.